And now it's Renovate and Build. 60 minutes dedicated to building and renovating solutions. Here's your hosts, Jim and Sandra.
Good morning. How are you today? Glad to have you along for the next 60 minutes here on Renovate and Build.
Yes, good morning to you listening in this morning, and good morning to you, Sandra. Today on the show, we focus on dealing with client care. It sounds so corporate, but it means so much when choosing the right people to work with, people who you want to make your service effortless. That's why I created Fairtrade Works, and why I like this show as a medium to bring in so many people from my world of construction. People who I feel comfortable recommending as client care orientated professionals.
I think, Jim, what we get lost in as consumers so often is that businesses say they want to be client care focused, but then when it comes down to making their hours of service work or their systems work for us, when something goes, off the projected rails, then all of a sudden they throw up roadblocks for us as consumers. And I know I say so often that I'm over that experience. Literally, I just don't, it's no longer exciting for me.
Right.
And I think that that's when it can be very frustrating for consumers when it comes to client care.
Yeah, I think they get bored of it. But, our whole business model at Fairtrade Works is about, being a third-party construction advisory team, and it all revolves around our advisors, our professional construction advisors. And their whole job is and their mandate is to make the construction process effortless for our clients, whether they be savvy developers, whether they be commercial clients or homeowners. And, and these advisors are like your professional construction friends that have a huge resource of qualified trades, know the prices that you should be paying. They literally go into battle for you and put your projects out to tender to get the pricing for you. And on top of that, they monitor the entire project throughout to ensure that you're getting exactly what you pay for, along with excellent client care and that kind of one point of contact. And we, the whole part of the business model of Fairtrade Works, we know the construction process is extremely daunting sometimes, and there's enough to worry about with just living life, your job, your family, maintaining your home. So you add the construction or any construction process to that, it becomes very stressful. So we want to take that stress away and have the clients back and work for them to make sure that all their worries are taken care of and they can actually enjoy the process. And one of our catchphrases is we actually make the construction industry work for you, and we represent you, the client. We bring all our leverage, all our qualified contacts and trades, all our service, our contracts, our client care team, the whole machine at Fairtrade Works to make sure your project is extremely successful and you get what you pay for it.
It's so interesting hearing your perspective as the construction professional and then mine as the consumer, because just recently I was explaining last week that I had Connor, so I've actually become a consumer of Fairtrade Works as well. I had Connor, one of our advisors, come into my home to put a surround around the washer and dryer. And what I really enjoyed, and besides knowing that he had the construction end of it covered and that I was, safe and quality construction, were the little things. The little things like not worrying about who's in my home, that he's going to protect my home. There's only one point of contact, not all of these trades coming in and no one there to manage it, but also the cleanup and knowing that it was safe.
Yeah, it's nice to just have a voice, right, to say, you know what, Connor, these are my concerns, voice them, have them well received, understood, and then make sure, that you've passed that on and it's, it's going to be taken care of, right?
Because I've done it the other way, and it, having to chase them down or people and saying, okay, what time are you going to arrive, and having to answer separate phone calls. And like you said, it becomes a hassle on everyday life. Connor just took that all away. So I think as much as the construction part is a big worry of people's individual, homes, and it's the largest investment you have. So you're usually going, okay, I hope this is correct. But the other part is just that service end of it and making sure it's kind of almost like having a concierge. That's what I felt like, oh, good. He just removed all the headaches. I could go to work and know that it was taken care of.
Because people always try to take it on, and it's funny, we watch the construction cycle with the old business and existing business model where, day one, day two, it's acceptable, then it just goes downhill. By the end of it, people are just ready to pull their hair out and just done with the whole construction process.
Another part of the business model that I enjoy so much is having professionals that we trust that we can recommend to clients as well, whether it be the architects, whether it be the designers, etc. One of the people that we have today that we trust is a realtor. Nicola Campbell will be joining us this half hour to answer your questions. She's incredible at client care, and she's always a wealth of knowledge when she's here.
Sounds fantastic. But first, let's get to my questions.
It's all about me.
me, my questions. But Sandra, I know our radio email address at Fairtrade Works, radio@fairtradeworks.biz, is overflowing and I know I personally receive emails from listeners wanting questions answered. So
I do.
yeah.
I have one actually lined up right now from Glenn. He's a regular Sea Isle 650 fan, and he says that he's been listening to our show and likes your advocacy model that you've set up, but he wants to know why you don't charge the trades to be in the trades pool. He believes that it might make them even more likely to follow your rules if they've invested to be part of the Fair Trade Works system.
I simply didn't want to charge any fees or any hidden fees to have our contracts and trades work on the Fair Trade Works pool, in the Fair Trade Works pool and team, because I just wanted to have an open door for everybody that we think is talented out there in the marketplace. We didn't want big corporations or larger companies kind of buying their way in, or the kind of the smaller fish, sole proprietors, etc., just having to, not be able to be involved. So we're all about looking for quality people, qualified people. So we just wanted to have a fair, open, even platform, so anybody could come, knock on our door. We could screen them, do our due diligence, and then help them be part of our team and just aid to the strength of our machine at Fair Trade Works.
I think also with the transparency of not ensuring there's no collusion, that you're not giving the big guys that are paying more money all of the contracts, and that was also a big part of it, that if there was payment, there might be, oh, well, you're favoring these trades over the other trades.
Absolutely.
So
and I think there's all sorts of kind of online websites where people pay to be number one and get their banner ads up there and all these kind of things, when that doesn't help the consumer, right? We're all about helping the consumer. So and people are actually surprised with the trades and contractors, say, well, how much commission do we give you? Like, what's our fees? And we're like, there is no fees, there is no commission. You just come and enter your tenders into our system when we put projects out to you. So it's, I think it's just, again, to do with our transparency and an even platform for everybody. So.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for that email. Hope that helps to answer your question. You're listening to Renovate and Build on CL 650 this morning. Hope you're enjoying your start to the weekend. My name is Sandra Lummis, and I'm joined by my co-host, the founder and president of Fair Trade Works, Jim Perkins. Just to give you a little history, 2 years ago, Fair Trade Works launched as Canada's only third-party construction advocacy platform. And instead of doing the actual construction work for you, our team of professionals provides complete construction management from start to finish. So everything from drawing up the scope of your project, to answering your questions, to providing design solutions or green alternatives, to the tendering, the legal contracts, and most of all, access to the guaranteed, qualified, and vetted trades that we were just talking about. Now, our team promises fixed pricing, quality work, and guaranteed timelines with the goal of changing your construction experience. This morning, we're starting off our show by answering your questions as part of our promise to excellent client care in hopes of becoming your lifelong construction brand. So you ready for another question, Jim?
Okay, shoot.
Okay, next up it's Brigitte. She asks what she and her family can do to help eliminate noise in their new home. They purchased a home on the weekend. Before buying it, they did all of their visits on when traffic was relatively quiet. And she says now, since moving in, they've had trouble with the sounds of road traffic, especially since they live on a hill. So she said you can hear the sound of traffic going uphill as they accelerate. And she said the home was built in 1984, so she was wondering if there are any new advancements to soundproofing this home. She says, we love the layout, we love the location, it's just the sound that's a hindrance. And she also asks if you have time, if you could suggest any landscaping ideas to also help, because their backyard patio is very noisy.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely spend an hour talking about this, but there's the obvious ones. Windows and doors, they're continuously grinding forward in their technology and new solutions for soundproofing. Triple gaze windows and all sorts of technologies coming out. So there's definitely some. That's where most of the noise travels into the home for the exterior. So there's definitely solutions in the window and door front. As far as any kind of noise inside the home, there's a million different things you can do, from putting it through heavy curtains. And recently we've actually had a bit of a surge just by chance of lots of soundproofing in condominiums where they may have noisy neighbors above, or noise traveling through the walls from neighbors, especially in older buildings, where there's a whole bunch of soundproofing solutions where we can go back to the studs, put the soundproofing in, and then re-drywall. And this stuff's so efficient, you lose minimal space, but it really is effective, and people are really astonished by this, by the results, which become ultimately silent. And as far as landscaping solutions, old traditional stuff like building tall heavy hedges, anything like that, where all that green matter does obviously absorb the sound and put in kind of a sound deadener and anything to muffle the sound. So yeah, and any green foliage, dense foliage is certainly going to help on the landscaping front to kind of muffle a bit of the sound. And we do a lot of. I'm doing a large renovation on a heritage home now, right on Granville Street, and we've planted this big, tall, 16-foot emerald green cedar hedge, replace the windows, and then actually just use some really heavy, thick, old school kind of curtains inside, because it is on Granville Street, but it's extremely old grand home, and it's ultimately, when you're inside the home, you can actually hear no traffic, and that's literally 20 feet away from Granville Street. So.
Well, and Brigitte, if you'd like to have a free consultation, you can call one of our advisors as well at 604-264-7366. You can also email us at contactus@fairtradeworks.biz. Okay, time for an email from Fort Langley, Jim. Matthew wants to talk to you about job site management. This is not a good story. He said he recently had a bathroom reno done, and he said it was a nightmare, Jim. He said the trades didn't show up for days at a time, and when they did show up, they were messy and they weren't polite to his family. He said they acted like the job was actually a burden to them in comparison to their other projects. Matthew wants to know how Fair Trade Works stops this type of behavior.
Okay, common kind of story in the construction industry here in North America, but well, we do everything to stop that kind of behavior, and Fair Trade Works is simply structured to abolish any of that kind of old traditional nightmare, so to speak. Having your advisor manage the whole project from start to finish and doing a huge amount of due diligence up front is number one. So all that pre-planning and organization. So once we do pull the trigger on the construction, all the ducks are in a row, so to speak, and it becomes seamless and flows. We have leverage. We have huge leverage. 400 or 500 companies work on my platform, so we have an ever increasing depth of good people who are pre-screened and we've done the due diligence on to kind of get the right people involved in my company and what we have to offer. And again, leverage where if, for example, we had a trade that wasn't doing as they were told or how they were contracted, which we've had happen in the past, then we're large enough now to execute that trade and ultimately have another person jump right in behind them. So for the homeowner, it's completely seamless and effortless. And I think it seems like a little thing, but it's a big thing. I've come across the construction project so many times where the homeowner or a developer or a contractor said, well, I'm not entirely happy with this person, but by the time I go find somebody else or replace them or get another quote, it just seems so much hassle, so people allow this behavior to happen, but we simply don't do that. And that's one of our biggest mandates. So, it's our job at Fair Trade Works to do all that work and do due diligence for our consumers so they don't have to worry about any of these things. They're not happy, we address it. It's not going to be perfect every time. We know this. We're dealing with hundreds of moving parts, hundreds of people, hundreds of material suppliers, etc., etc. So we're just lucky enough to have the leverage to make things happen and can make things happen. And just by having good people around us and all having a clear understanding of the vision and bringing that kind of pride, efficiency, client care back into the industry. And of course, the advisor is the one point of contact, but the more they set the tone and the path in these kind of projects, the more our contracts and trains bind to it. They enjoy being part of it. They enjoy being part of this positive movement. And it's just, it's kind of creating this really prideful army that just keeps getting better and better.
I think it's important, Matthew, to point out, because client care is so individual, and I know your situation was very extreme, but as Jim said, we have had to remove people from job sites before, and if it's something serious, that they go against our code of conduct that they sign when they come into our labor pool free, then it's really important that we know that they can be removed, or their employer will remove them if they're just one of their workers from not only the job site, but from ever working on a Fair Trade Works project. So that's the leverage that Jim's talking about there. And that's all the time, Jim, we have right now for questions. If you want a question answered, please send us your email to radio@fairtradeworks.biz. And even if we can't get them on air, we promise to answer them personally.
Still ahead on Renovate and Build, smart ovens. You wouldn't believe how smart ovens can actually be. This sounds great, being a non-cooker. Maybe I'll actually get into the kitchen one day. Sandra, from remote cooking progress apps to non-preheating with 20% faster cooking times, our ovens are doing almost everything for us, even providing recipes. To tell us about these favorite features, Meg and Gary will be with us later this hour with Product Face-Off.
And you won't believe how smart building products are getting to be either. We'll be joined this hour by Dr. Banthia, a civil engineering professor and researcher at UBC, to talk about the latest in smart technology. But first, we're going to be continuing our show focus today on client care with our next guest. Nicola Campbell from Walter Homes will be stopping by to talk about apartment and condos and what you should be looking for when choosing a realtor who will work for you. That's next.
There's still lots more ahead. This is Renovate and Build, powered by Fair Trade Works with Jim and Sandra.